Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video, and welcome once again stepping back through Formula 1 history. Today we are here in what can only be described as the Dark Ages. Today we're jumping in, we're going to be looking back at F1 2015, the first game of course that came out on the kind of next generation console, although I guess it is now the last generation of consoles. The first game that was obviously on the new Ego engine as well, and it's safe to say, spoiler alert, it was pretty terrible. Of course, if you're new around here and you aren't already, please do consider getting yourself subscribed to the channel. Of course, as we get towards the end of 2025, we've got a few more of these fun kind of throwback videos, but there's going to be one that I'm really looking forward to. This is going to be a first channel exclusive. Last 212 is going to be playing F1 Race Stars with me on the run up to Christmas, so you definitely want to make sure you get subscribed for that one, because I think that is going to be absolutely hilarious. Obviously, though, out on the home screen today, I would never expose Last 212 to F1 2015. Of course, you are immediately met with all of the options inside the game. Now, this was, I believe, the only F1 game in the Codes era that didn't have a career mode. Maybe F109 didn't have like a proper career mode as well, but this game, you didn't even have the option to drive as yourself. There was nothing like that. You either had the option of racing as one of the IRL drivers in championship season, which was basically you run as one of the drivers throughout all 19 races of the 2015 campaign, or pro season, which was exactly the same thing, just with no assists and HUD. How on earth they kind of managed to make that two separate game modes, I'll never quite know. But there we go. It was quite a cool addition, but it still wasn't its own career mode or anything like that. You also obviously had quick race as normal, multiplayer online lobbies, time trial, and My F1. And that is it. Now, in My F1, you've got a few little random bits and pieces, but not much of it works anymore. My Fanatec wheel would not work. Even my Xbox controller was really playing up inside this game. It took me about an hour to config the files to actually get it to load as well. So we put a lot of effort in just to try and make this video happen. Which, even before we go in, I'm not convinced was really worth it. Heading on though into time trial, of course I don't believe we've got any particularly special tracks inside this game. Of course, Sepang back on the game as well. Shanghai, no short circuits, anything like that. Of course, Spain used to be the opening race of the European leg of the campaign. Monaco, Canada, Austria, all fairly standard stuff. Silverstone as well, obviously Hungary, Belgium, Italy. Singapore, of course, the older version of Singapore, but not the original version. Japan, Sochi, of course, back on this game. USA, the return of the Mexican Grand Prix, I believe in 2015, before Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. And that is all of them. So, not a bad track roster by any stretch, but not a particularly good one either. Or, if you head into My F1 and you switch to the 2014 season, I believe as well, we did also have access to the Hockenheim ring, which was quite a cool little addition inside of this game as well. I believe every other track is the same. Apparently we don't? I was adamant I remember driving Hockenheim inside of this game. Is it in quick race mode, for example, instead? There we go, Germany. So yeah, Hockenheim was inside the game as well. Now, here's my personal theory about what happened with F1 2015. F1 2015 was meant to be F1 2014. Now, that might sound a little bit weird and a little bit confusing, but I believe, obviously, because F1 2014 came out on the old generation of console, Xbox 360 and PS3, I believe F1 2015 was meant to be F1 2014. They realised they were way behind on the game development and everything like that, so rushed together F1 2014, postponed this until 2015, and obviously then still released what can only be described as a half-baked game. So yeah, that's just my personal theory with F1 2015. F1 2014, I'm sure we'll jump in with that game next week as well, but it was pretty disastrous as well there. So where do I fancy going then for our first laps back on this game? If I remember, Brazil was quite different back in the day. This was like before a lot of the updates to the Sao Paulo circuit. Now, having a look then, obviously, at all of our teams, Mana Marussia, of course, the big one for me. Mercedes, of course, we're still obviously in the Hamilton-Rosberg era. Red Bull, I believe, was Ricciardo and Kvyat this year. Bottas and obviously Felipe Massa were down at Williams. Ferrari had Sebastian Vettel for the first time, alongside Kimi Räikkönen. But McLaren Honda. This is a bit of a throwback, isn't it? McLaren Honda are obviously still in the game. Obviously, the first year that McLaren Honda were back together. And it's safe to say it was a complete disaster. Well, here we are then for our very first lap back on F1 2015 in probably about a decade. Yes, that is how long it's been since I last played this title. And there seems to be a little bit of a ghost in the system as well. I don't know why, but for some reason, occasionally, like, my controller will randomly try and turn in a different direction and things like that when I'm going down a straight. A little bit weird, but not as weird as everything else inside this game. Let's talk about the good, first of all, in F1 2015. Number one, the graphics. They were a huge update on F1 2014, of course, finally kind of harnessing the power of the new generation of console. I mean, look at that. That's impossible to drive. I think that's about it, though, for the good thing inside of this game. The handling model was pretty rubbish. Of course, the Ego engine was massively, massively improved for F1 2016 in the handling model department. I've already talked about the fact there was no career mode at all inside of this game. The handling on this game was just so weirdly twitchy. I think it was alright if you had a wheel, but like I said, even running like the compatibility mode and things like that, in my Fanatec wheel would just not work with this game. We couldn't get it to work with F1 2016 either, so I think this was kind of before the era of like the Fanatec CSL wheels and everything like that, but easily one of the weirdest things I remember about this game as well, though, was the fact that going off-road didn't really cost you any speed. You had so much grip and traction that you could basically turn the circuit into whatever you wanted to. Now, obviously, on a modern F1 game, you would probably find yourself kind of spinning out, trying to rejoin the circuit or anything like that. But yeah, on F1 2015, you could basically do anything you wanted to. Combine that with some of the jankiest crash physics we've ever seen. I'm sure some of you guys have seen the clips before of me kind of being able to do... I think we had a huge crash at Singapore. That's a great example of another one right there. I'm pretty certain if you went up Eau Rouge with no wing on this game and tried to cut the corner, I'm pretty certain you could go completely flat out and do a backflip, which I will definitely be putting to the test a little bit later on in this video. Of course, recently, it has been good fun as well to kind of go through, have a, talk about kind of the nostalgia of the F1 games now. I will have to kind of thank this game, because it was the first one that I ever kind of did any sort of career mode on the F1 games as well. I think, if I remember correctly, I did like a Force India career mode or something like that. I had like 200 subscribers at the time. It was only really F1 2016 where I kind of started doing it a bit more seriously. I mean, look, I'm not steering. It's literally just turning itself around the track. What on earth is that? It's so hilariously twitchy. I don't know if it's an issue with my controller or what. There you go. We're going to get reset anyway. What I want to do, though, is, weirdly, I'm going to go back to the 2014 cars for a race in a second. Because A, I want to race at Hockenheim. And B, I want to take on the old Caterham as well. As I promise you, there is a ghost in this game. I am not doing that inside the title. What else was I going to say? There was one other bit about F1 2015 that I wanted to quickly mention. That was it as well. It was a little bit unlucky. 2014 and 2016, of course, saw pretty good IRL title fights, of course, especially 16 in that dramatic Hamilton versus Rosberg era. 2015, that fight never really happened. Hamilton just wiped the floor with Nico all year long in the all-conquering Mercedes W05. Obviously, Sebastian Vettel did take his first 3 Grand Prix victory as well for Ferrari, which was another pretty special moment. And I guess the other big one, of course, was the rise of Formula One's youngest ever driver, Max Verstappen, of course, making his debut at 17 years old. No idea what really ever happened to him after that. I don't know kind of what happened to that young man after he joined Toro Rosso for 2015. Can we just appreciate for 1 second how bad some of these driver animations look inside the game as well? Look at Hamilton, bless him. That is not Hamilton's best look ever. Of course, Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat. No idea why Kvyat's got soulless eyes inside of this game. Felipe Massa, for some reason, kind of looks like a newborn inside of this game. And then look at young Valtteri Bottas. I can't wait to have him back on the grid next year. Vettel, to his credit, actually kind of looks like Sebastian Vettel. And then Kimi Räikkönen, for some reason, always have green eyes in the F1 games, which is a little bit weird. Fernando Alonso and, of course, Jenson Button down at McLaren. Never did they know how bad this season was going to go. And then, of course, the ultimate midfield team of Nico Hülkenberg and Sergio Perez as well there. And there we go, babyface Max Verstappen alongside Carlos Sainz there, who, to his credit as well, looks like a very, very young child. All hail the greatest Formula 1 lineup of all time. Romain Grosjean and Pastor Maldonado. These two caused chaos all year long. There's a reason Lotus went bankrupt, and it must have been mainly down to the crash damage caused by those two. Felipe Nasser never felt he got enough time in Formula 1 either. And then, of course, Will the Lad Stevens down at Manor. And fun fact about Roberto Merri, has basically raced in everything throughout his motorsport career. Even after racing in F1 in 2015, went back to Formula 2 in like 2022. What an odd story arc that was.
It's Sunday and that means it's race time here in Spa. As the cars are being prepared, let's join them trackside for the start of the Belgian Grand Prix. We're nearly ready for the start of today's race, but in the meantime, let's take a look at the grid.
Well, here's a bit of Matt 212 lore then for you as we line up on the grid ready for the Belgian Grand Prix. The 2015 Belgian Grand Prix was the first F1 race I ever went to in person as well. Very, very happy memories. I believe Grosjean got a podium that weekend in the Lotus after I think it was Vettel had a late race puncture in the race as well. But let's just see then if we can try and do a backflip inside this game. 5 red lights are on. And it is going to be lights out, and away we go then in our Mercedes there. Lewis Hamilton on the pole, just ahead of Vettel and Nico Rosberg there, as he's still trying to steer me randomly. There you go. There's the whole wing gone. So I believe now, all I need to do, make our way down in towards Eau Rouge and Radion, try and cut up the Endurance pit lane exit, and hopefully we should go flying here. I have not attempted this in many, many years. At this point, and let's just wait and see what we can do. Oh, there you go. We're just heading towards the sky. Can I see that from... There we go. So we get to look at this from a third-person camera angle as well. Such a dumb glitch. How on earth this was never tested in the first place? There you go. See, we go flying, get a little bit of wing under, and just go flying. Oh, it was so funny. So broken. But so funny inside this game. I want to take a look at this from a different angle. I mean, we're lucky not to take one of the manners out with us as well. But yeah, you just get a little bit of dirty air under it. Can I try and do it from like third-person cam? Here we go. So you can just see that. Yep. It's the way as well the car just randomly immediately flips upside down. Like if we try and slow it down, we're fine. We're fine. Obviously now we're going airborne. I mean that's a good shot there anyway. You can see we're kind of going towards the wall. Can I see it from here? And then, as we're still taking off more and more, remember the old house up at Eau Rouge? I mean, look at that. It just pretty much immediately tips you upside down, and then we're just locked in at this trajectory for the rest of time. Now, I don't believe there was a photo mode inside of this game, but that should give you a good idea as to how broken F1 2015 was. Oh, there we go. Just going to set up the second Grand Prix of the day. Adrian Sutil. Obviously, I forgot he'd raced in 2014 with Sauber. Again, another one, a bit like Max Verstappen. I wonder what he's doing with his life now, apart from getting arrested, literally a week before I recorded this video. We're going to jump in there with the Caterham. I think we're going to go with one of the weirdest F1 drivers of all time, Kamui Kobayashi. Does anybody remember him in Formula 1? I used to love this guy. Well, here we are then in our Caterham right at the back of the pack then. Of course, this was the last year Caterham were in the sport. There you go. We apparently need a top 15 finish, but it is going to be lights out, and away we go then. And actually up to a pretty good getaway, trying to move down the middle of a couple of other cars in towards the very, very fast turn one there. Actually, oh no. The crash physics definitely... What is that? It's just complete pinball. Absolute pinball down at turn 1. The crash physics on this game was so hilariously broken. Let's try and do that again then. Let's see if we can try and keep it a bit cleaner this time round then, as once again, lights out and away we go. And once again, getting a jump on both those Sauber cars down in towards turn 1. I love as well, if you take a look, I could probably fix it in the settings, but the mirrors are so low resolution, despite the fact I'm running the game at 4K. I mean, it does look, a huge step up from like F1 2014 before it, doesn't it? I will say there were some positives about this game as well. Like I said, the graphics were pretty good. The fact that you did have 2 seasons of career mode inside the game as well is something that oh no, here we go, pinball again, is something that obviously we've never really seen again. Of course, we will be getting that, though, with F1 25, won't we? So, clearly there's something about the 005 games that come out halfway through a generation always have to be a little bit funky, whoa, in that regard. Yeah, you know, apart from that, though, there wasn't a lot to really write home about, was there, on F1 2015? And obviously, you know, coming off the back of 2014 as well, there was, again, another rather lackluster F1 game, even by its, you know, fondest fans. I think if I was an F1 content creator back then, it would have been a real struggle. The likes of Ben and Arav, to kind of make it through that time and still come out of the other side alive and kicking, is something that you have got to be genuinely quite impressed about from the pair of them as well. Now, another good thing, though, on F1 2015 was the modding capabilities. Of course, some of you older viewers might remember, or obviously viewers of F1 career modes might remember, of course, My Driver, that Arav did as well, was a huge kind of multi-space universe that obviously kicked off on F1 2015. And it was basically his way of trying to save this title at the end of the day as well there. But yeah, apart from that, the handling model was atrocious. The crash physics were disastrous. Game optimization was not fantastic either. No career mode. Online lobbies were pretty broken. You know, some of the glitches that we still even see to this day obviously were a thing back on F1 2015. The twitchy handling model was pretty terrible as well. I mean, it's so weird to kind of drive. I don't know whether it was a thing for everybody or whether it's just an issue I've got today. And kind of the random inputs that the game is sometimes doing as well is not very helpful either. But it was a baseline, and it was a baseline for F1 2016 and the games that have come ever since then. And, well, there have been some pretty impressive hits. The thought that this game is 5 years older than F1 2020 honestly is actually quite impressive, just how much coders were able to improve and obviously refine the games and everything like that as well. So in that regard, it is kind of impressive almost how bad this game was for how good the games did become pretty quickly, actually. Even from 2015 up to 2016 was a huge step up as well there. But I want to see if I can do what Caterham never could and see if we can try and clutch up a point in this Grand Prix. There was obviously Kevin Magnussen. That's probably a Kevin Magnussen style overtake there. Just move him out of the way in rather aggressive fashion as I'm getting a big old twitch once again. Oh, Magnussen! Oh, man. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. What do you mean could have received a penalty? Magnussen just absolutely obliterated me, and now we're going to be where Caterham normally were. In the wall. In the wall and down in last place. I think Hamilton, though, is going to take the victory by the looks of it. Up at the front of the order there, of course, Mercedes. Obviously still right at the height of their early turbo hybrid dominance. Which, of course, yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen that now in over 5 years, which is kind of mad to think about, isn't it? In modern day Formula 1 as well. There's, oh, come on, Twitch Magoo! The twitching is awful inside of this game. But honestly, going into this, originally I was having a glitch where, like, the brakes were permanently locked inside of the game as well. I'm impressed that we've even been able to get a couple of races under our belt. Not convinced it was worth, obviously, setting everything up for this game. But, you know, I've got to do what I've got to do to try and give you guys as many videos from this series as I possibly can. Hamilton's going to take the victory, though, ahead of, I believe, Rosberg, and both, obviously, the Williams there as well as P20 Jules Bianchi. I had almost forgot that he was inside this game as well. Of course, gone, but never forgotten after that podium at sorry, those points even, I should say, at Monaco earlier on this year as well. Out of the final corner, though, it's going to be last for poor Kamui Kobayashi. Let's go rank this game, shall we? Well, to the maybe 3 fans out there that really did enjoy F1 2015, this is not going to be a good look. Honestly, it makes 2022 look like a fun and enjoyable game. Arguably, the handling model was worse on F1 2015. The graphics were definitely worse. We had no career mode, anything like that. How can you even release an F1 game without career mode? This definitely goes immediately to the bottom of the pile. And obviously, again, like I said, the huge step up to F1 2016 the year after is honestly nothing short of impressive. But a very, very weird time in Cody's kind of cycle with the F1 games. Almost feels like we're kind of heading into another very weird time at the moment as well. Thank you all, though, so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please, like I said, make sure you leave a like, get yourself subscribed. Let me know your thoughts and feelings about F1 2015 as well. And yeah, we'll be back next week, hopefully, jumping in with F1 2014. The last, obviously, of the old generation